get in a taxi and go, I don't know where I'm going. But most people do that with their lives.
Are you a high-performing business owner wanting to double your revenue? But maybe you suffer from shiny object syndrome, feeling scattered as you chase the next great idea. Often wondering if you have the right goals and plan with all the thousands of options and strategies available to you. Welcome to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood, where we help you get the laser focus you need so you can double your revenue, achieve way more in less time, and be a more extraordinary entrepreneur and human. Let's dive in and stay tuned for your gift at the end. Welcome to this exciting episode. I'm excited because I have a delightful guest, and I don't think I've said that before. Aloise, who is the artist formerly known as Kitty, is here to talk to us about vision and the importance of that, because I help entrepreneurs on how to get focus. And one of the key elements of focus is you got to know where you're heading. So I'm excited to get into this topic, but first let me introduce Aloise. Aloise is an Ascension guide and Akashic Records Reader. Did I pronounce Akashic correctly?
Very good.
All right.
Very good.
An Akashic Records Reader, a Reiki Master, and an Accredited Coach. Her Dharma Life Academy shows you how to create the life you desire and make a difference on the planet. Welcome, Aloise.
So lovely to be with you, David.
We were introduced by Chris Atwood, co-author of The Passion Test, who's a common friend of ours. And I'm just so grateful that he put us in touch, because I love knowing you. And I feel like we have a friendship that goes beyond being colleagues.
Yeah, I felt it too. Like we had a real connection, like from the first time that we met.
Yeah. So, you know, people need to know where they're heading, whether they're an entrepreneur or a waiter or a CEO of a big company. There's no point getting focus if you're climbing the wrong mountain, right? So how, it seems like such a big question. I was in a men's group, and one of the men asked me, David, what would have you celebrate your ass off? And I was so confronted by the question. I couldn't even think of something that would have me so happy. I'd be just doing the happy dance. So how can how can our listeners work out their vision? How can they create something that they can hang their hat on? How do we do it?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that having a vision for your life, I personally believe, is a key criteria to success. I have had a vision for my life since I was like 21 years old. It was something that came very, very naturally. I always knew where I was going next. I always had an idea about what I was creating and what I wanted out of my life. And how I did that was I would always imagine a kind of next expanded version of what I thought was possible for me. So the very simplest thing that people can do is, look at where they are now, look at what's working, look at where they are tolerating things, and then really imagine where they would like to be in an ideal world. And the simplest thing that you can do is really connect to that inner CEO. We were talking about this before we came on air, but I truly believe that we have this inner guidance system that we are not taught to tap into, but actually, when we are true to ourselves, when we're true to this inner wisdom, our higher self will bring us a vision for our lives that we never even dreamed was possible. And I've witnessed this and seen this in my own life.
So I want to unpack that, because there was a lot of good information in there. So we have an inner CEO. I resonate with that. I often say, put on your CEO hat, because it's so easy for us to get in our patterns and accept what life hands us. And that's fine too. That's a whole other spiritual practice of, I'm not going to plan anything. I'm not going to create anything. I'm not going to vision anything. I'm going to love what's in front of me. That's fine. But you're saying spend some time to tap into the inner CEO. And I love this question that you raised. What's possible for me? So we're tapping into our creativity here. So whether you want to would you recommend meditation for that, or magic mushrooms, or like what are some ways that we could get into that space of just asking what's possible for me?
Mm. Well, I'm a massive believer in just dreaming and just really going big. Essentially, what is it that would really excite you in life? You know, what is it that you have been told probably isn't possible for your life that you truly would love? You know, I have a Dharma Life Academy, and everything I do in that academy is I get the guys to really home in on what is it you've always wanted in your life, but actually society's told you that, oh, you can't do that. You can't necessarily have your own donkey sanctuary, for example. One of my ladies is just doing that. Or you can't be a £1 million portrait artist. Another one of my guys is just going after that. So we take a vision and then we expand it. And then the other thing, just on your point about knowing where you're going, I think you have to know where you're going, but then also done attached to it, and really just trust that that vision is going. If you're taking daily action towards the right direction and you're listening to that inner CEO, then we can let this higher mind, what I call our spirit, effectively will guide us and fill in the blanks, and it will bring us something bigger than we ever imagined.
So I that wasn't clear to me, and I want to get this.
Okay.
I got what would excite you. That sounds really awesome. But then that last piece was, if you take, what was that about action? Would you say that again?
So the way I like to look at it is we're creating our future. We're not living into our default future.
Right.
If you don't understand where you're going, you're living in, if you get in a car and you don't know where the car is going, you just wouldn't do it, right? You wouldn't get in a taxi and go, I don't know where I'm going. But most people do that with their lives. So,
Wow.
It's true. It's true. Most people are driving in the seat of their lives, and they have no idea where they're headed.
Right.
So a created future is you set a course. You set a course where you're going and what you want to achieve. Okay. And therefore you take action on a daily basis towards that. So for example, my £1 million portrait artist, he knows that's where he's going. So on a daily basis, he imagines himself as this £1 million portrait artist and take actions as if he was a £1 million portrait artist. He then relaxes and just enjoys the journey. And in my own life, I've seen where I've followed this formula, the universe will bring me something even better than I've thought even possible.
Wow. Okay. Right. Now I got it. Thank you. So I love this concept of imagining and constantly imagining and represencing. The Secret was a very popular movie, and I believe that was largely about visualize it, like imagine you have it. And also, I'm told, I don't know that I do this myself, but I'm told, feeling the feelings. Like, what would it feel like to have that? And then you're suggesting, would you suggest that you do that daily to imagine and reimagine this future?
Yeah, I think it's lovely to connect in. Like, if you have a meditation practice, you can connect in with that vision on I would say a regular basis. I don't necessarily think daily is necessarily, but for example, I have my visions, I write them down. I have a book where I draw and I create, and at the moment I'm manifesting a global transformation center. So I check in with that vision every now and again. I add a little bit more to it, put my book down, put my book away, and then probably every couple of weeks I'll check in with it and just see how I'm feeling about it. And if I want to add something to it, I will.
Wonderful. This ties in with what I do with my clients, where I have them, I recommend they have some weekly CEO time where they're just setting what they're going to do for the week. And then, but even more important is 5 minutes at the end of each day to pick the 2 things they're going to do the next day. So this could tie into your daily action. And I can't see, look, if you're going to set aside 5 minutes anyway at the end of each day, why not spend a couple of minutes of that just in a simple meditation and represence that future that you have, and feel that. For an entrepreneur, it might be, my business has tripled. I'm impacting 3 times as many people. I'm getting rave reviews from my product or my service. I'm getting, for me, if I'm going to visualize, I could imagine having the partner of my dreams, a companion that I love sharing life with. And I'm seeing now I could do that every day.
And so just on that topic, I'll share a story with you because it correlates to what we're talking about. So when I was single, I was exactly in the position that you're in, and I was wanting to manifest and create that person. And so how I did that was I journaled daily. So exactly like you're talking about, you're sending energy and you're connecting daily with what it is you want. So I did the morning pages on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote three pages a day. Initially I wrote about what the hell was wrong with me and why had I been single for 8 years. And I kind of declogged my system of all the negativity. And then I went into creation mode and I wrote down what I was looking for in a partner and how it felt and how they felt and what we did and how our life was together. And I would say that was the January. I did that for about 4 months. And then I asked the universe for a sign that I wasn't going to be single for the rest of my life. And the same day I asked for the sign, I was walking back to the car with my dog and I looked on the ground and I saw a costume jewelry engagement ring. And I picked it up. And this costume jewelry engagement ring fit my finger. Okay.
Wow.
So first of all, it blew my mind because I was like, whoa, that's a really good sign. I've given the universe 48 hours. And then, David, I did something really crazy. I started wearing it and I wore it every night when I went to bed. So I wore it and I looked at it. And when I wore it, I felt loved. And I felt that I imagined that there was this gentleman sitting next to me in my bed. Okay. And then it got a bit more crazy because I started wearing it all day, every day. And then I'd go to a meeting and I think I'd have to take it off because obviously they don't know that they know I'm not engaged and I'm not in a relationship. So I'd take it off and I'd stuff it in my bag. And I got to the stage where I remember coming out of a meeting and I looked in my bag and I couldn't find my ring. And I really had this like, oh my God, I've lost my engagement ring. And of course I thought, what are you doing, you crazy woman? But what I was doing was I was connecting to the emotion and to the feeling of being engaged and having this person in my life. And about 3 weeks after I started wearing this ring, I had my first date with my husband. And my first date with my husband, I knew, and I had a 10-hour date, the first date, 10-hour date, the second date. Now, fast forward 3 years, we're still together, and he presents me with a ring. This ring, if you're watching hopefully on the YouTube video, is the spitting image of the ring that I found in the park.
Wow, that's awesome. So I love this daily represencing. This is what a great metaphor. Most people, we're in a taxi and we don't know where it's going, and we're just kind of responding. We respond to email, we respond to phone calls. We got to take the kids to school. We got to do all that. But where are you heading? So take some time apart. Maybe once a year, maybe once a quarter. Go into the woods. Do a little vision quest. Get a coach, whatever. Put your CEO hat on and ask yourself, what's possible for me? And then represence it regularly, maybe every day. And I like you mentioned the morning pages. And for listeners who don't know, that's from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Wonderful book. And I think the morning pages is a wonderful practice. And you can also be doing your 5 minutes at the end of each day to pick the 2 things, because Aloise mentioned daily action. Just daily action in the direction that you have declared for yourself. And then you brought up another big point, which is you don't know what the universe is actually going to bring you. It might bring you exactly what you envisioned, or it might bring it to you in a way you didn't expect, or it might bring you something else that might be even better than what you planned. But the daily action is a way that you can send a message to the universe, and I believe to your subconscious, that this matters. That's all. Now, I have some resistance to this idea, Aloise. I realize when I think about visualizing what's possible for me, what comes up is yeah, but what if I can't really have that, or that's not really going to happen and I'm just going to be disappointed? What do you, how do you suggest people like me could handle the resistance to creating our ideal world?
We all have stuff. But it's important to declog our systems and to essentially get rid of the stuff. So I would use the same process, you know, all the negativity that's going around your head that's saying, I can't have this, I don't deserve this, all the negative beliefs, all the lower level beliefs that you're carrying, get them out on paper. Keep
Yeah.
writing until you can't stop. You know, and when one pops up, because essentially you're processing that stuff. If you're keeping it inside your system and you just keep rethinking it, if you imagine, we're powerful energetic beings, and when we focus our energy and attention to create our future, we can create it. But if we've got a load of low level beliefs that's clogging up our system, we need to then release those so we can focus our energy and attention purely on the vision that we want. So as I said, with
Right.
my husband exercise, the first 6 weeks was negative, what I was writing.
Wow.
Because I had so much stuff and resistance to who I was and why I'd been single for 8 years and I couldn't find that person. And that resistance, think of it like a radio wave. You know, that's clogging up our signal. So our signal is mixed. So we can't call in what we want if we're giving it mixed signals.
Wow. I love that. So for me, I have a goal of finding a companion and attracting a wonderful partner. And I can see now that these morning pages, which I'll explain in a second for listeners, if you don't know the morning pages, I can see how that could be a way that I could put attention on it and send signals to the universe. And it's okay if the negativity comes out first. Oh, this is why it won't work and blah, 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 blah. And then once all that is done, I can see I could turn to the positive. Would you explain to listeners what the how they can do the morning pages?
So as you said, it's a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And originally the book was to help artists who were experiencing some type of block. You know, often we hear about artists who've got writer's block and they can't, they need to write their book and they can't. So she wrote this book to help artists initially, but obviously it's a powerful exercise for every human being. So the idea and the concept is that every morning when you wake up, ideally you have an A4 pad of paper and you have to write 3 pages of A4 paper. And the idea is that you're pushing yourself, because most people go, oh, I don't know what I would write, but the idea is you're exhausting your brain of the stuff that you're carrying. So if we go back to this radio analogy, what we want to do is fine tune our vibration and fine tune the signal so we are in direct alignment with what it is that we're creating and calling in. Now, as we've just said, if you've got lots of negativity or mixed signals or doubts about whether you can call in something, that will be confusing you. So the Artist's Way is a fantastic way for people to get clear. I also use it, David, with people I work with when I coach them who are depressed, as a way of clearing their depression. And it's it's such a simple exercise, but it's very, very powerful.
Well, I love it. And I love it so much that while you were saying that, I just went and put it in my calendar to repeat every day that 8 a.m. I will do the morning pages for 7 days. So that's how I will wake up. I've done it before and I loved it. I got my whole vision for my company out of doing that, because I think I'm cheating. You're supposed to not even read what you write for the first 6 weeks. But as I was writing, I would get ideas or I'd get, I'd realize what I want to do that day. I'd be like, oh, I really want to do that. Whereas before I might have woken up with no drive and I'm like, oh, I don't even want to face the day. By the end of doing the morning pages, I'll have 7 actions circled in the pages and I know what to do. Or I stop doing the morning pages and I get other paper and I start creating. Like sometimes I just go off the rails. So that's awesome. Thank you. Aloise, would you wrap up this interview for us by telling us the story, the concise version, if you would, of how you created ATL and what that is? Because this is an example of you having a vision and then manifesting it in time and space.
So how I'm lucky enough to know David is through this mutual connection, and David and Chris are members of the Transformational Leadership Council. Now, the Transformational Leadership Council is an American organization, but it has offshoots. It has a European offshoot called ATL Europe, and it was leadership organization, essentially for transformational leaders. Now, I first heard about this organization when I was climbing a mountain. I was climbing Kilimanjaro, and the gentleman who took us up Kilimanjaro every night would regale us of stories of the TLC and how it was just an incredible thing to be part of. Now, this ticked all my boxes. You know, I talk now about Dharma and purpose, and hearing about that organization was something almost like a light bulb went on inside my soul, I would say, because it was everything I was passionate about. You know, I was very into personal development. I was very into transformation. I was very into making a difference on the planet. And also I was a very skilled networker and community builder. I'd done that in my corporate days. I'd built big corporate networks that were very successful financially for the business that I worked for. And so I knew that I could do this. It felt like something that was exciting. We've been talking about excitement in this episode. And it also felt like something really aspirational. And I knew, David, that who I surround myself with was who I've become. So when I got down off the mountain, I wrote a business plan, and I wrote exactly how this organization would look. And I started to call it into existence. So I spoke to my friends. I literally would tell my friends, I'd go out for dinner and I would tell them what I was doing. And I was saying, I'm going to bring this to Europe. I'm going to bring this organization to Europe. You know, this is my vision for it. And I would keep repeating this. I would also visualize it. I remember lying on my bed, you know, on a regular basis, kind of doing the meditation, and I'd visualize it. Now, this process went on and off for probably about 9 months. And I'd kind of connect to it and I think, oh, I can't do it. And then I think I could do it. And how it culminated was I studied NLP, and I did a parts integration one day in my NLP qualification. And I remember like my brain realigning. It was a very kind of strong process that we went through. And I believe that what I did was actually let go of a block that I had, some resistance that I had to calling in what I wanted. Because the following day, I got an email out of the blue from a woman I had connected with probably about a year before. I'd helped her come to England. She sent me an email out of the blue saying that a lady from the TLC was moving to Europe, and they wanted to set up a European version of TLC, ATL Europe, and did I want to get involved? And so this email came out of the blue. And as you can imagine, I remember kind of looking up at the sky and then looking at the email and like, oh my God, you know, I couldn't believe it. But I do believe it was testament to the process that I went through. And I also think the universe looks for openings for people to do its work. And because I was in alignment, I was wanting to support the ATL Europe being born, the universe connected me to the right person. And that was how ATL Europe was born. And, you know, 9 years on, I've been running leadership organizations since then.
Wow, thank you. So you envisioned it, you kept imagining it, representing it, and your mind started to get in alignment with this. I like that. And, you know, I don't know if I've told this story publicly before. I won't tell the whole story, but how I got into TLC, I never really connected that with visioning before. I just figured it was an accident, right? But once someone called me up and said, congratulations on your nomination to TLC, I said, thank you. What's TLC? I had no idea. And he told me it was his thought leadership organization that Jack Canfield and John Gray and other people had started. And I was like, so thrilled. And then something came into my head and said, wait a minute, do you have the right David Wood? Because there's another David Wood. And he said, let me check. He called me back. He said, oh, I'm so sorry for the tease. I got the wrong David Wood. So I was crushed. And I said, this is now my life goal. I want to be in that group. I want to hang out with those people. Now, you say visioning, I say coincidence. I'd also reached out to John Gray to try and get a testimonial for a book I was writing, an endorsement, and never heard anything back. Well, a couple of years later, I'm in a hotel, and at midnight, I'm locked out of my room. And this is in a little town in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm locked out of my room. I go to the receptionist to get a new key card, and I look over, and I don't normally recognize people. I'm not good with faces. But I said, isn't that John Gray?
Oh my God. Sitting
there by the fireplace? And she looks up her list and goes, that's the gentleman's name, yes. I said, gentleman's name? Don't you know who this is? This guy sold more books than God. Like, are you kidding? Anyway, I walked away because I didn't know what to say other than, you're famous. Can I touch you? And maybe it'll rub off. Like, that was the truth. I go back to my room, and 3 times I said to my girlfriend, I just walked away from John Gray. And after the 3rd time, she said, put on your damn clothes and get back out there. So I did. I go back out there. I walk up. I had to stand there and interrupt his conversation with his friends until they acknowledged me. I felt like a shag on a rock. Anyway, one thing led to another, and John nominated me to the Transformational Leadership Council. He'd never even nominated anyone before. He didn't know how to do it. I said, if I handle the paperwork, and he's like, yeah. So
amazing.
I don't know. I've always considered that a real accident, but I did some stuff. Like, I had reached out to him already. I had tried to get into the TLC once I found out what it was, and then boom.
It's in your energy field.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else. When I got in, I said, and all this came from me being mistaken for the wrong David Wood. But when I got in, one day I'm standing on a beach in Hawaii talking to someone on the steering committee. And I said, wait a minute, how did I get through the steering committee? I understand John nominated me. I understand I got voted in probably because it was John. I know how that happened, but you didn't know me. How did I get through the steering committee? And he thought for a second, said, we thought you were the other David Wood.
Who is this David Wood?
So how's that? Firstly, I'm mistaken for him, and that's how I find out about it. And then later on, I'm mistaken for him, and that's how I get in. Now, apparently, he has been voted in, and so there are 2 David Woods. I still never met him. I'm not sure he really exists, but you've got me now thinking that maybe this visioning and me wanting it and me having the desire might have had something to do with the universe lining things up. Aloise, how can our listeners find out more about you?
Well, I'm just about to do a challenge, so they're welcome to come and connect and do this Follow Your Highest Excitement challenge. And interestingly, it's all about creating for the vision for your life. So if you go to aloise.life/FYHE, Follow Your Highest Excitement, come and join that challenge. And I'm also on Instagram, aloise.life.
All right, aloise.life. You've got a program they can jump into. Guys, go and check that out. Entrepreneurs, executives, and leaders, you've heard here today how you can create a vision for yourself and why you might want to do that. And then also how to connect that with daily action so that you can align yourself with that vision. And ultimate goal of this podcast is to allow you to focus. You can't focus if you don't know where you're heading. Aloise, thanks so much. It's really good to see you again.
My pleasure. So wonderful to be with you.
Thanks for listening to Extraordinary Focus with David Wood. Now, to double your revenue, to achieve way more in less time, and to be a more extraordinary entrepreneur and human, make sure you get our gift basket. It includes a cheat sheet with the first step to doubling your revenue, a short video roadmap, and a free Double Your Revenue audit where we identify the low-hanging fruit in your business. To get all 3 of these goodies, just go to myfocusgift.com. If you got value out of this episode, tell your friends. And nothing says keep up the good work, David, like a review, which helps us climb in the rankings and to reach more listeners. Now, let's be extraordinary.